I want to talk to you today about the myth, The Wizard of Oz. One of the most beloved mythic stories that was immortalized by MGM is The Wizard of Oz. And it's a story that tells us about our own journey. It's a journey about us. And so this morning I want to talk to you about Dorothy and her fellow travelers and what this is all about in our own lives. Because it's really important to us to know that our life has many facets to it, and we can change the direction we're going. We can change what we're doing. We can expand our lives, our consciousness, our minds in so many ways. And we know this because of these myths that we have been told throughout our lives. And probably The Wizard of Oz is one of the newest myths of modern times. And it really does teach us a lot. It takes place in Kansas in the 1930s, where they're having it's in the Dust Bowl, and things aren't going well, and the earth and everything around it is gray. It seems like there's just no color in life, and Dorothy is having a problem. She has run into Miss Gulch, who is just not a nice woman, and she has all the money in town. And she says that Toto, Dorothy's little dog, who represents energy, by the way, so you want the energy in your life. Little Toto has bitten her, and she's going to take Toto and put Toto in and have him put down. So Dorothy's really upset. And she comes home and she tries to talk to Auntie Em. But Auntie Em is doing her figures, you know. She's got her notebook and her ledgers. And she and Uncle Henry just are too busy counting the chickens and the new chicks to pay any attention to our friend. And sometimes that's how we are with our children. You know, we are so wrapped up in our lives that we don't have time to listen. To just take time to listen to them. And so then Dorothy decides that she'll go talk to the hired hands, and the hired hands are just as helpless feeling as she is, and they don't offer her any help at all. And so she's wandering around and moping around, and she falls into the pig pen and has to be rescued. And Auntie Em impatiently says, "You always get yourself into a fret over nothing. Find yourself a place where you won't get into trouble." And this is where the myth begins. She asks Toto if there is such a place. And she affirms, there must be. And then she sings the beautiful song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, with such longing. And here, then, is the invitation to the myth, the call to adventure, a beautiful anthem to the search for a deeper and truer reality.
When all the world is a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step beyond where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, then, oh, why can't I? Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
The hero's journey begins with a call to adventure, a summons, a grand summons that beckons us forward to make changes in our lives, to really make some big changes sometimes in our lives. And sometimes it happens because we're ready to make the change, and sometimes it happens because we have to make the change. And so our journey continues. The characters in The Wizard of Oz are all called to a larger life. They're all called to become more than they ever expected to be. And so we see Dorothy, and she is truly troubled. She decides to run away from home, but runs into someone who tells her that he believes that her Auntie Em may be sick with worry, and so she becomes alarmed at that, and she runs back home, and as she's going home, there's a tornado following her. And when she gets back, everyone has already gone into the cellar, and even though she bangs on the door, they don't hear her because of the noise of the storm. And so she runs into the house, and she jumps on her bed, and as she is there, the window blows open and hits her in the head, and her adventure begins. And so in the book, The Wizard of Us, Jean Houston tells us that this myth is something that is calling all of us in our own lives to a new way of seeing things, a new way of experiencing things. And so she steps from the gray world of Kansas into the technicolor world of Oz. And it's beautiful but everything is so very different. She sees everything as being so changed, and all of the rules are different, and the people look different, and she's not sure what's happening, except she realizes that she needs to get home. Even though she is the one that has initiated this beginning of her transformation. So she knows she has got to get home because she's afraid that Auntie Em may be so worried she might even die. And so she finds that when we are on this journey, that we do not have to do it alone. That there are those who will help us on the journey. There are those who will show us the way. And as she starts out on the yellow brick road, she realizes that the Good Witch of the North, I think it is going to be a help to her. And as she is walking, she meets other friends along the road. She finds out that even though she felt helpless before, that she is not helpless now. That there are people there to help her. So she and her dog Toto entered the land of Oz, and along the way she meets the Scarecrow, and then she meets two other characters on the road. She meets the Cowardly Lion, and she meets the Tin Man. And so on this journey to find Oz, the Tin Woodsman steps on a beetle, and he feels so bad. He just feels terrible because he kills the poor little thing, and he's always so careful not to hurt any living creature. And he's distressed that it's happened, and he begins to weep, and he starts to cry. And as he does so with sorrow and regret, the tears slowly run down his face and over the hinges of his jaw, and there they rest. And when Dorothy asks him a question, he can't talk. He can't tell her what's wrong. So she looks to the lion, and the lion doesn't know, but the Scarecrow knows immediately what the problem is. And so he knows that the woodsman's jaw is rusted shut, so he seizes the oil can from Dorothy's basket, and he begins to oil the jaws. And after a few moments, the Tin Man is able to talk as well as ever.
This will serve me a lesson to look where I step. For if I should kill another bug or beetle, I should surely cry again. And crying rusts my jaws so that I cannot speak.
Thereafter, he walks very carefully. The Tin Man knew very well that he had no heart, and therefore he took great care never to be cruel or unkind to anything.
You people with hearts have something to guide you, and need never do wrong. But I have no heart, and so I must be very careful. When Oz gives me a heart, of course, I needn't mind so much. After all, brains are not the best things in the world. Have you any brains? No, my head is quite empty. But once I had brains, and a heart also. So, having tried them both, I should much rather have a heart. And why is that? I was born the son of a woodsman who chopped down trees in the forest and sold the wood for a living. When I grew up, I also became a woodchopper. I wanted to marry a beautiful Munchkin girl. She promised to marry me as soon as I could earn enough money to build a better house for her. Unfortunately, the girl lived with an old woman who did not want her to marry anyone. So the old woman went to the Wicked Witch of the East and promised her 2 sheep and a cow if she would prevent the marriage. the wicked witch enchanted my axe, and when I was chopping away at my best, the axe slipped all at once and cut off my left leg. At first, this seemed like a great misfortune, so I went to the tinsmith and had him make a new leg out of tin. The leg worked very well. This angered the wicked witch. As I began chopping again, my axe slipped and cut off my right leg. Again I went to the tinsmith, and again he made me the leg out of tin. But the spell was insidious, and the enchanted axe continued to cut off my arms, one after the other, and then my head, until the end I was completely made out of tin. But alas, I now had no heart, and I lost my love for the Munchkin girl, and did not care whether I married her or not. My body shone so brightly in the sun that I felt very proud of it, and it did not matter now if my axe slipped, for it could not cut me. There was only one danger, that my joints would rust. But I kept an oil can in my cottage and took care to oil myself whenever I needed it. However, there came a day when I forgot to do this, and being caught in a rainstorm, before I thought of the danger, my joints had rusted, and I was left to stand in the woods until you came to help me. It was a terrible thing to undergo, but during the year I stood there, I had time to think that the greatest loss I had ever known was the loss of my heart. While I was in love, I was the happiest man on earth, but no one can love who has not a heart, and so I resolved to ask Oz to give me one. If he does, I will go back to the Munchkin maiden and marry her.
All the same, I should ask for brains instead of a heart, for a fool would not know what to do with a heart if he even had one.
Well, I shall take the heart, for brains do not make one happy, and happiness is the best thing in the world.
So the Tin Man had a memory of the heart, and he understood that the heart is the most important part of us. And the physical part of the heart is only a part of what the heart is. The heart is so much more than just this physical part of us that makes our blood move through our bodies. It has a memory, it has a mind, and it works together with our brain, which we'll talk more about next week, in creating our life as the way it is and the way that we can function in this world. And so the heart is an amazing thing, though. Did you know that it beats 100,000 times a day? And that in an average lifetime it will beat 2.5 billion times? That's pretty amazing. The ancient Greeks and the Mesopotamians and the Babylonians spoke of the heart as the center of intelligence and knowing. And science has shown the heart communicates with the body, but not only with the body, but with our brain as well. And so we often say things like, we will hold our memories in our heart. We don't have the heart for it. We talk about heart connections. And to the person we love, we say, I give you my heart. We don't say, I give you my brain, do we? So references to the heart are things that we all know, and we know that there's something more to this heart than the beating of it. And in Jean Houston's book, The Wizard of Us, she talks about, she says, what you see in The Wizard of Us is not myth, but also a powerful initiatory drama of the hero's journey. So what we've seen with Dorothy here is that she is being initiated into something new. And explicitly for Dorothy, it's the introductory rite to the passage from her home in Kansas through the deep archetypal world of Oz, with all that she learns there, and she returns to Kansas. So there's this longing to go away, and then there's this longing to come back home. And as we have this longing to come back home, we learn many things upon the way. We discover that we live in a greater universe with greater potentials and capacities that transcend and invigorate us beyond the potentials that we learned in our local lives, fine as they may be. And so this, for her, is a time of passage. Actually, for her, it's a rite of passage. And you know, we have many rites of passage in our lives, don't we? Many rites of passage. We go from being babies to children, to adolescents, to teens, to being adults. We go from being single to being married, or we go from being healthy to being unwell, or vice versa many times as well. There are so many transitions in our life that we all make that change us in many ways, because once we have gone through this kind of a change in our life, when we have expanded our consciousness, we are never the same. And as a result of that, no one around us is the same either, because we change things. And so what Dorothy is doing, she is not only doing something for herself, she is doing something for her surroundings as well. And so she is becoming something new, something different. And along this road, she goes through many trials. And don't we go through trials when we are going through our transitional times? You know, things happen that we don't expect, and, this wicked witch shows up, and she's got all of these awful monkeys. Ooh, I don't know about you, but when I was little, I saw this film, and the monkeys scared me to death. I was like covering up my eyes and peeking, I was like, oh no, they're still there. They were just horrible. And sometimes we feel like covering up our eyes and saying, oh no, I don't want to look at this. I don't want to face this. I don't want this to happen to me. And yet, we have to open our eyes, we have to face it, and we have to move through it. And this is what Dorothy does, and this is what her companions do too. As they are on this journey, they realize that they have resources that they didn't know that they had, and that they can work together to overcome all of these things that they're going through. And so as we move along in the story, we see that wonderful and great things are happening to these little journeyers on this yellow brick road. And so they move forward, and they keep moving forward. And next week we'll talk about what happens to them as well, and how they get to the end of the road, and how that works for them. There's a time in all of our lives when we realize that we want to go home. We want to go home to ourselves. We want to come to our real selves within our, and home is in us. It is there. This reference to the heart is so powerful. It pulls us along, and it encourages us, and it tells us that we can do this thing, whatever it may be. All of you at one time or another have been called to a new adventure, a new thing in your life. And sometimes we go kicking and screaming, and sometimes we go readily, and sometimes we make the choice to do it in the first place. But often something happens that throws us into it. And as this happens to us, we begin to change our attitude, and we begin to see that perhaps there are some things that we can learn from this. Perhaps there are some ways that we can expand the way we see things, the way we know things. And so Dorothy's on her way home, and the lion wanted courage, and he wanted to be free from fear so that he would be able to follow his destiny. He really wanted that very desperately. And the scarecrow wanted brains so that he could make discerning decisions and move on with his life besides trying to scare crows away. And each of these characters represent the disenfranchised parts of ourselves, those parts that we don't think we have. We don't believe that they exist within us, but we will find that perhaps we are wrong. We look outside for something to fix us. We look for the Wizard of Oz to help us. And next week, we will explore other elements of this myth that is an integral part of our lives today, because we are all living a mythic life. We all are. And you may not realize it, but it is right here. It is right here within each one of us. And so we will look behind and under the myth to see the process more clearly for ourselves and for our world. So I want to ask you, have you or will you answer the call to adventure, to enter into the great myth of your life and see what happens that brings you into a whole new place, a whole new energy, a new way of being? God bless you.